The original Naval Construction Battalion 133 was commissioned at Camp Perry, Williamsburg, Virginia in 1943. They lovingly get their name Seabee from the literal abbreviation Seabee for Construction Battalion. After 7 months of training in Davisville, Rhode Island, Gulfport, Mississippi, and Port Hueneme, California, NCB 133 was ready for action. The battalion adopted the kangaroo as its symbolic mascot, and Kangaroo Can Do as its slogan, because the first scheduled deployment was to be to Australia. Naval Air Station Honolulu became the first deployment site. 133 was tasked with expanding and improving the air station. The work involved raising the level of the airfield and building seaplane docks, fuel tanks, and buildings like mess halls and churches. The finished airfield became one of the largest and busiest in all of the Pacific. The days were hot, and the work was long. My own grandfather was part of the team, specifically contributing to the airfield, building the church, main chow hall, and much, much more. The Seabees shifted gears as the war changed focus in the Pacific. No longer were they headed to Australia, but now they were heading to Island X, later to be known as Iwo Jima. The invasion of Iwo Jima began February 19, 1945. And it's important to remember, given time change and the international dateline, the first waves started landing February 18, 1945, with our own grandfathers specifically landing around 7 p.m. Eastern on the 18th. The Seabees were attached to the 4th Marines. Side by side, they stood on boats headed for shore. Their goal was to survive side by side up the beach, and once secured, move forward. Once secured, they were to serve as the shore party, maintaining supply lines to the front lines, rebuilding the island as best as possible to then accommodate air traffic from Allied forces. As the battle continued, the Seabees were tasked with repairing the island's 3 bombed-out airstrips. When the Marines captured the first airstrip, the runway was sufficiently repaired to be used by light observation planes. On the same day, the order came to begin rehabilitating the second airstrip, which was to become the longest in the entire Western Theater. The Seabees encountered constant sniper fire and mortar attacks while attempting to reconstruct during the battle. While suffering 370 casualties in the initial 875 men who landed, it was the highest number of casualties of any Seabee unit in United States history. In the 5-month period the battalion spent on Iwo Jima, over 100,000 tons of rock was crushed. Over 1 million cubic yards of earth was moved. 5,900 feet of drain pipe was laid. 4,000 feet of conduit was installed, and 725 cubic yards of concrete was placed. As the war drew to an end, the battalion finished work on Iwo Jima, and shortly after, in December of 1945, with the general reduction in military strength following the end of World War II, NCB 133 was decommissioned. The unit was later recommissioned in the decades that followed. The 4th Marine Division was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation for the Iwo Jima battle, and the 133rd Seabee Battalion was not. The 133rd was part of the 4th Marine Division from November 1st, 1944 until March 1945. The 133rd was not a support unit. They were actually used as Marine Pioneer battalions during the battle. The 133rd NCB and the 4th Pioneer Battalion both became shore parties for the 23rd and 25th Regimental Combat Teams of the 4th Marine Division for the assault phase on Iwo Jima. All of the official battle plans on record do show this. Presidential Unit Citation declared that the Pioneer units were assault units and did not state that the 133rd were support troops. Therefore, the 133rd would have to be considered assault troops. The entire 133rd landed with the first waves and suffered 40% of the casualties. That exceeded the casualties of the 4th Pioneer Battalion. The 4th Pioneers were awarded the citation, and the 133rd was not. The 133rd acted in the same capacity as the 4th Pioneer Battalion for the 23 RCT, wearing issued Marine uniforms, subject to Marine regulations as part of the 4th Marine Division, assault team, and not specifically as a support group. They were awarded 10 Bronze Stars, 29 4th Marine Division commendations in recognition for their part in the assault phase of the operations, and the 133rd NCB wore its uniform proudly as Navy and wore its uniform proudly as Marines. They served both with distinction. They earned and deserved the recognition that unfortunately is still not theirs at the time of this story. To the best of my research, I've yet to be able to find any indication that the 133rd NCB has been awarded the Presidential Unit Citation for their service on Iwo Jima. These are interesting things with JC.